You're now listening to Signed In Private Chat featuring Asura's Wrath. Find us online at signedinpodcast.com.
Open your eyes, traitors! Kneel before one of the 7 deities! 7 deities? The 8 guardian generals who knew only war are no more! We 7 deities! How pitiful.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Signed In, special private chat for Asura's Wrath.
That's right. You told us to shut up.
I did tell you to shut up.
Not you, I'm talking to listener.
Oh,
you told
sorry.
us to shut up, and
Yeah.
so now we're crying out even louder.
Making it
In
a
our
whole
wrath.
show
With a whole separate show for it.
that you
right.
can totally skip over without a problem. But you
can.
know
But
you're gonna
you
listen to
shouldn't.
it. You know they're gonna listen to it though.
I don't know that for sure.
Oh, they are.
So what's your guys' mantra?
What?
Wrath.
Mine is
You are wrath, yeah. No, that's true.
Mine's boredom. No, I'm just kidding.
Sloth?
Mine would be sloth. Yeah, mine would totally be sloth.
I guess that would be melancholy.
Yeah, it
Oh.
would just be like
You would totally be melancholy.
I guess I'm Yasha.
I'm going to go... That's not bad.
I guess
He's
not.
kind of cool.
Yeah. He's hard to play with, though.
I would actually... Is there... I would go with Poser. Is that one? My mantra is Poser.
Yeah, I think that works.
That'd be awesome if they did like some dude that showed up and his mantra was Poser. And he was just like doing whatever anybody else was doing in the area.
Yes.
He's like a chameleon. Anyway, so Asura's Wrath. We talked about on the show.
Yes.
I can't remember what episode, but there's like 5 of them.
yeah,
Should
quite
we
a
explain
few.
what a private chat is for those who haven't listened to one before?
Yeah, if you haven't heard a private chat previously and you're just signed up for our downloads and you're getting everything that we do, private chat is where we go more in depth into a specific game.
Lots of spoilers.
There will be lots of spoilers, so if you are concerned about Asura's Wrath and being ruined on that story, you should play it.
Yes.
And then come back and listen to this
Correct.
show. If you don't care and just want to hear us gushing about a crazy ass game
And insulting each other.
and
as
probably making fun of each other, then stick around. Because there will be spoilers and we will be talking in depth about story elements
Yes.
from Asura's Wrath. Which I have finally completed, so I can now
Congratulations.
partake in
Yes.
the talk.
Thank you.
And I loved it. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Yes.
Sweet.
So, to give a basic rundown of Asura's
Yes.
Wrath, it's based largely on Buddhist and Hindu mythology and religion, drawing from their gods and several references, like I think the spaceships in the show. I was going to call it a show. The spaceships,
It is a show.
The spaceships in the game are like named after like weapons or things like that. And so, but it takes it in this incredible sci-fi bent
Yeah.
of this retro future. I'm
Yeah.
not exactly sure where it is, but
Yeah, I know, because it's retro, but everybody's... So it seems like
But there's
old times,
high-tech
but then
stuff.
everybody's cybernetic.
yeah.
And,
So
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe it's one of those things where, you know, an apocalypse happens and we lose the technology. But
Maybe.
at any rate,
Who knows?
That's not important to the story.
At all.
The big
Yeah.
crux here is between these generals, these 8 generals and their emperor fighting against the Vlitra, which are these evil entities that spring forth from the earth
the
itself.
Goma?
Goma?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Vlitra is the big one.
The big
right?
one, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah, the Goma. It's been a while since I played it. The Goma, and so the Goma represent darkness, and the generals on trying to protect the people of Earth and all of that. And so they've waged this war, but it's obvious that no one's ever going to win this war. But then one of the 8 generals, Zeus, no,
Deus.
Deus.
Thank you.
Yeah, the
He-
names are going to be a little tough for me because I can't remember.
Well, we don't
everybody.
have to remember all of
That's
them,
right.
but he's a pretty
That
significant
dude.
one. Deus is a pretty significant
Yeah, he
one.
is.
And it means God. So that's pretty easy. And so, he's got this plan to wipe out the Goma and save humanity and rewrite the universe, essentially. But it's going to require some sacrifice. And so, unfortunately, the sacrifices are the Emperor and then Asura, because he is framed for the Emperor's murder. And basically, I think they're getting rid of Asura because, one, they need a patsy, and 2, his Asura's daughter has like this ability to basically enhance the general's strength.
Right.
She can kind of enhance. They're kind of powered by mantra, what they call mantra. That's what we were referring to before, which is powered by the prayer of people, and so she can kind of amplify that and supercharge them.
Right. At the prayer of people and basically their souls.
Yes,
Really is what it comes down to.
Well, that's the source that Deus goes to. He's like,
Right.
well, this power is pretty good.
But if these
how
fuckers
about
were
we get it
dead,
straight from the source?
how about we do that?
Yeah, exactly.
They get a little bent.
Yes.
So here's the thing. I really like the progression of that.
Right.
Of that story.
Yeah.
And so at its base level, you're doing all these fightings, and it's just like quick time events
Right.
for the most part. There are some
the
fighting
most part.
elements. But there's this whole underlying story that doesn't... When you get these kind of really heavy Japanese games,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not as clear as what's going on.
Right.
But I
True,
found
true.
out, and maybe I didn't know what was going on at the time, but as things kind of got pieced together and as everything was done, and you think back, there is quite a progression in this game, which
Yeah.
I enjoyed quite a bit. Like, the whole idea of, we're doing this to help the people.
Right.
And then they
But
kind
we
of jump around
get a
in the
little
story.
twisted,
They
yeah.
get a little, like, power hungry.
Right.
And it's like, well, it now becomes... And it's almost analogous to, like, the whole like oil kind of situation in real life where it's like the power becomes like manipulating this
Sure.
this resource and now we can kind of stay in power.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how I took it
yeah.
when I was
Nice.
playing it, where we at one time we started this because we wanted to get rid of this, but now we kind of need that whole element to stick around,
Right.
so that we can stay in power,
Right.
so that we can protect people.
Look at you
and
finding
get their power.
socio-political commentary.
It's exactly what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, this shit is like, it really means something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it where they
Right.
just totally got corrupt.
Yes.
And
so what
and
happens is that they try to off Asura, and he does die because he goes to that he
Right,
goes to
right.
that underworld area for like what 1,200 years.
yeah,
some
the first death is
Yeah,
12,000
it's-
years.
it's
The
a
first
long-
death,
The
yes.
first death, yeah.
And then-
time does go by.
That's correct. And there's this golden spider guy who kind of inspires him to go back and beat some ass because he's pissed off because he's Asura and
Right.
his wrath is never ending.
Correct.
And so then he busts out and he discovers that the other generals have now become the seven deities and are basically ruling over Earth, but
Protecting Earth.
Protecting Earth, yeah. And so there's this gray line, but Asura doesn't see that as a gray line
No.
because he's been betrayed and his daughter's been kidnapped, and he doesn't fucking care about anything
Nope.
else.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. He cares about other things later on. But,
That's true.
But I mean, that is his primary motivation. To say that Asura is a little one-dimensional is pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when he comes back and comes out of that rock area,
Yeah.
doesn't he? Because he was basically you're fighting, or no, I'm trying to remember how he comes
It's
back
later.
the first time.
It's later. He just busts out of the Earth.
Oh, okay. Because he was sent down. or
Everyone
whatever
forgot
they-
about him.
Yeah.
Over those 1,200 years.
But he kind of became a legend, right? For people. I'm trying to remember how they were praying to him because it wasn't.
That was
didn't-
that was
That's-
after the.
I'm
getting
that was
confused
a-
'cause there's the second
That was
death.
after the
Yeah.
other death where he was in between, stuck between the rocks.
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
or
Because-
infused with the rock.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he
that
comes
comes-
back,
man.
and they basically see him as a traitor at this point, right?
Right.
Yep.
So they have to stop him again.
Right.
So that's what's going on.
Yes.
Trying to get it all placed in my head.
There's a lot that happens.
There is.
There's a
and
ton
it
that
doesn't
happens.
seem like it when you play like little bite-sized 15, 30-minute episodes.
And that's, we forgot to mention that because the overall structure of the game is divided into chapters, which is not uncommon, but these chapters are stylized highly after Japanese animated television programs, complete with credits at the beginning, in the beginning of major acts, title pages, and end credits, and essentially a commercial break in the middle without the commercials.
right.
Yeah. A commercial would have been. I don't know. That would, I would have been fine with that.
As long as you could turn it off. If you
So
want.
he comes back,
Exactly.
continuing through the story here, he
Exactly.
comes back, they stop him again.
Right.
He battles a couple deities.
Yeah.
I think he goes through a couple.
Yeah.
And then gets to, I can't remember who stops him. Do you guys remember? Is it Yasha?
Probably.
That comes down and is like, look, you're a traitor.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Anyway, so somebody stops him a
think it's
second time,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And so he dies again for 500 years, I think.
Something like that.
And then comes back, and that's when he busts out of that rock, and he's now been a statue because everybody kind of saw him as like this force that stopped the Goma. And so he was being prayed to as a fallen.
Right.
And so that's when he sees these people that are praying.
Yeah.
And that's when he gets his other little hook of this one girl in particular
village girl,
that is praying for him, and that he's become. I think he basically puts her in the Mithra role.
Yeah, basically,
that I'm going to protect her.
He attaches to her in that way, definitely. Well, and I think that extends because he didn't really not care for the people of Earth in the first act, but he also didn't.
He came in swinging.
Yeah,
it was like he had blinders on, and it was just one thing. And then I think
it was just directed.
Yeah, and after his next rebirth, he got to see what these deities were actually doing. Before he wasn't noticing it, and then time had actually passed, and now he's seeing that these deities, especially that one, he's in the village, and they came and sacrificed that village just to take him down, and he's telling everybody to run. They're all getting down and praying. And that was some of the things I really enjoyed about that. It's like he's telling people, get up, you're going to all die. But that was the way things have been over time. Right. So he got to see that. And then with the one girl, it was almost like she was kind of not betraying him, but smarter than the rest of them. She didn't want to die. And I think he saw that.
And I like that they couldn't communicate. Like they couldn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think that made them do different storytelling things rather than just kind of exposition. Plus, Asura is not really a talker anyway, so it kind of solves that issue.
No, that's about it.
Or don't forget,
grunts and screams.
I wouldn't want to tell him oh, dude, I'm sorry, I forgot that at the house. I'll get it to you tomorrow. I'd just be like, what?
So then the final act with him coming back is, after that 500 years, obviously they've gotten more corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're operating on a level where they're fully aware of what they're doing at this point.
Yeah.
And so it becomes Azura's
I think a number of the generals were pretty upfront about it anyway, because
knowing what they were doing.
Early in the game, like in that first opening scene, they really do divide the generals into the fighters and sort of the tacticians. We have the frontline generals and the backline generals, and I always had the impression that the backline generals really knew what was going on.
And that's like where Sergei would be, and the girl.
Yep. The vanity guy, the sloth guy, Lust, which was the girl, and then Deus, which was Pride.
Pride.
Yeah, and so...
and by the way, they don't reveal all of that aspect of it until like 3/4 of the 2/3 of the way through the game, like everybody being tied to like a specific... that I recognize. And when they did, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and even... you can see it in the little placards, like when you unlock... Because there's tons of things you're unlocking as you go through the game.
And I didn't look at any of those.
But each one has like their mantra listed.
Okay, that's awesome.
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And they're basically the 7 deadly sins.
Right, and when that came up in the game, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even think
melancholy.
about it. Right,
melancholy. Yeah. Which reminds me, we've skipped over Yasha. So Yasha is Asura's brother-in-law. Asura married his sister. And
Yasha's sister, not...
That's right, correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
They're deities.
Right.
That's not that.
They're different rules.
So yes, he married Yasha's sister. And Yasha's been in with the group because he's one of those frontline generals.
Yes, the fighter.
And so, he's believed in it as in, we're going to beat the Goma, we're going to save the world, they're not going to have to worry about anything anymore.
Yeah.
But and at first, when Asura comes back, he's like, you just need to stop because what we're doing is right.
Right.
We might not be doing it in the greatest way, but our goal is
the greater
correct.
good.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But then as he watches Asura's conviction in particular, and it's Asura's conviction that generally inspires people the most throughout the game, where he's just not going to stop. It doesn't matter what sort of odds you throw at him. He doesn't care. And this also comes up quite a bit in the some of the DLC. A lot of these elements are accentuated.
Yeah, because you see that multiple times Aspire.
Yeah.
Or Inspire, I'm sorry, Yasha.
Yes.
Where he's just like, you're not going to quit.
Right. And so then he starts to doubt what they're doing, and he's like, maybe there is another way. Maybe Asura has an idea.
Well, they also had that element with Yasha where and I think they even talk, and I think it's mentioned in dialogue, where when you're up here, like, because Yasha basically went off world,
right,
and was up in the ship,
They're
like
all
doing all
living
this
in
stuff.
their
and
space
so
body.
He had no idea what was going on down in the ground because he's not the general guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So when he went back to the world and was like, "Holy shit, they're totally just killing all these people for no reason," And that was one of those times where, as Yasha, that I think it was that Yasha Sergei meetup where he's like, you know, can I stop those things? You can stop them. If you can stop them, we won't sacrifice the city because otherwise we're going to purify them and save them before the Goma kill them.
Right.
And so Yasha's like, okay, let me go fight him. And Sergei's like, oh, you didn't do it quick enough.
I guess that
and he just like kills everybody for no reason.
That reminds me though, because their argument for why they kill them and collect their souls is because otherwise the Goma would take their souls.
Right.
And so they do have a justification for it, but as we've said
it's for
before,
evil.
Well, but as we said before, they're starting to cut out the middleman. They're like, well, it's going to happen.
They'll eventually get killed by the Goma, so let's just take them for us.
Let's just do it now so we can power our ships.
The only thing that I was really confused about is the number on that planet, because if this has been going on for years and then it just seems like it's gotten, unless they're breeding like mad fire down there, because the thing about it just seems like they would just go, just take it out, you know, it just. But I love
it's the key to good gardening, Sean.
I know exactly. It's like pull those weeds. It's fine. They'll be all right. And I like that aspect of it because you really get to see how Asura is so. He is one man. Mm-hmm. He does have a wife. He does have a kid, but also, and you get to see like his problems with that, which I really liked about the story.
His discomfort, like he just cannot associate with people, even people that he can kind of.
Yeah, and that's what I really liked. Is like I keep thinking, how is this guy? You know, as the story progresses, how does this guy have a relationship if he's so bent up? Mm-hmm. And then when they show those little bits, you get to kind of see that, and I like that they added that into it. Mm-hmm. And but also you have him totally not becoming that one man anymore, and then toward the natural progression of him just realizing there's other people around him, and he's got to just stop thinking about his daughter, but also everybody else. Right. So, and then it really works because the two, him and Yasha are so. I know, but they're so yin and yang, and then
the end, for the same purpose.
Exactly.
And their little energy colors, red and blue.
Yep, and it's really nice when they come together and they just really end up melding at the end. So
and that was the thing. I wasn't expecting the Yasha chapters. There were those elements where you play as Yasha, and I had no idea that it was happening. I will tell you this: the game kind of turned for me when I got to about chapter 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. And so I was enjoying it up till then.
Right.
But as I hit 11, 12, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah.
Like, because it amps up so much. And that's when Yasha comes into the picture. Mm-hmm. And he brings in that compassion side that you didn't have with Asura the entire time. Where you're, like, fighting against these guys because they're evil and they're bad and they're corrupt. Yeah. But Yasha brings in this whole, like, thoughtful side to it.
Right. Yeah.
Where this is the reason why. Mm-hmm. And you don't really have a reason why other than revenge.
Right.
For Asura. So I like that chapter change almost on that point. Like, I just totally changed my mindset, or added another level, I should say. And that adds into the yin yang thing, where it's like they're fighting for the same goal, but he gave you a reason why, not just because they have my daughter.
Right.
Yeah. Give me back my daughter.
So then they buddy cop up.
Yeah. Yes. Totally.
And take the fight to space.
They bromance it.
Yeah, they do. Definitely.
The fight goes to space a couple different times.
Well,
they go back.
They really go to space here.
Do.
And face off against Deus, and
fight over who gets to kill him.
Yeah, basically. and so they defeat Deus, but then Vlitra, sort of the source of the Goma, erupts out of the earth again, which happens in the beginning of the game, but this time,
which is actually and that ultimately goes towards their goal of why they were collecting mantra as well, to power the Bahamastra, whatever his name is. Bahamastra. Their big weapon.
Right.
Yeah. They wanted to store up all this mantra to be able to fight Vlitra when it eventually came back.
And so let's take a look at it. I mean, the Goma erupt out of the earth, and the Vlitra lives in the center of the earth. So it's basically the earth is trying to kill off humanity.
Right.
And this is our struggle against nature to survive.
Right. It's basically it's the defense force,
because the Goma are all animals.
Yeah.
I mean, they all take the form of different animals as well.
It had a very Final Fantasy type vibe.
Yeah, a little bit
in that sense. But it just seemed like you weren't. I was like, why are they trying to destroy? Can't they just all get along? It's like you really wanted a support group for them all so they could just sit down and talk and try to figure things out. Because
I'll get out.
I was like, if it's all the way to the core, I'm like, they're gonna just end up destroying the world in the end. But that's neither here nor there.
It goes into those other things that I was talking about before, where it's the Earth's defense force.
Yeah,
because the people of the Earth are killing the Earth.
Yeah, the immunity system.
Earth is fighting back and saying, you guys are ruining us. And then so these deities are like a third party where they're like, just in the middle, and they
Right.
see an opportunity to take power.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to keep the conflict going.
Yeah.
So then Asura and Yasha take the fight to the center of the earth, to the heart of the earth, and fight the wrath at the center of the earth itself,
Yes.
and win.
And so then you get this like happy wrapped up ending.
Right.
And that's when they like let you know that, oh, if you've done an S rank on at least 5
Yeah.
episodes or played
Yeah.
50 episodes total, you can get this true ending,
Right.
which isn't
So then,
Not an ending.
So then you're like, so it's like 18A or 18B or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. So then you play it again, and it's the exact same thing, but then right at the end, like the golden spider comes
Right.
back, who
Yeah.
has been kind of egging Asura on the whole time, and takes control of.
He always said the right things on his shoulder.
Yes.
Always. Oh, you can just quit. You're fine.
Yep.
You're all right.
Yeah.
No.
I can't remember who the chick deity shows up.
Yeah, she tries to kill Asura's daughter because
Right.
she's pissed off about them killing Deus.
Her lover.
Right, because she was lost.
Mm-hmm.
And but then she gets offed by the spider, and then he's like, "This is my plan," and then it ends. And
Right.
it's like, what?
So the true ending is
It's
to be
actually the
continued.
kickoff
Yes.
to the fourth chapter that
Yes.
came in DLC.
Right. So then the DLC came out with the episode 4. Or I'm sorry,
Act 4.
Act
Act
4,
4.
which is Nirvana, and it's
And have
four more
episodes?
Four
Yeah.
more episodes that continue and complete,
Right.
essentially, sort of.
And so
The story.
the spider reveals himself as, I can't remember his name because you guys have been playing the game more recently.
I wrote it down because I can't remember. It's Chakravartin.
Chakravarta.
Chakravartin, I think.
Tin. Okay, yeah.
But I can't remember
And that's
his name.
you know,
Shakira.
if you look that
Chakra.
up,
Let's call him
Shakira
that.
Martin.
if you look that up, that's I think in Hindu.
Yeah, I think so.
It's the creator basically.
Nice.
And so you end up, and so it's just Asura against this
And
guy.
he keeps morphing, too, which I love.
Right,
Yeah.
I like the design for him a
Yeah,
lot.
me too.
We haven't even talked about like some of the design stuff.
No,
but
we'll get to that.
We'll get to
Let's
that.
skim through the story. It's
Yeah,
gonna take an hour
exactly.
for that.
But so basically, you end up with the creator versus the destroyer, and because Asura is a destroyer, I mean, he's
Yeah,
wrathful.
yeah.
That's all he wants to do is break things down. And you know, Shakar, I can't do it.
Chakra. Just call him Chakra.
Chakra Khan. Chakra Khan shows up and he's like, I've been testing you, Asura, because I need to move on and create some other universes. So, you know, but I need somebody to take care of this one. And
Right.
so you're the one who's proven that you're basically strong enough.
This was
to,
all a test
to do
for
this.
you.
Yeah.
And Asura's response to that is, fuck that. I'm going to fucking kill you. You've been playing me?
Yeah. Don't you understand? These guys have always pointed me in the direction I need to go
Yeah.
and do what I need to do. And now you're just saying, I've got to be the one controlling things. And you were playing now.
So yeah,
You're
so we
dead.
have the creator versus the destroyer, and what's really neat here, story-wise, is that it's skewed to a Western perspective, where you know, if we take our religious perspectives for creator and destroyer,
Yeah.
you know, you have God and the devil, and so one's the good guy, the other's the bad guy. And really, these guys are more ambivalent, kind of in between. And our protagonist is the destroyer. I mean, your ultimate goal is to destroy.
Yeah,
him.
and you're going to side with Asura being the good guy in this case.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because
exactly.
he was the one that was manipulated.
Right,
And
right.
so you're going to put the creator as being the evil guy. I mean, that's how
So-
they paint him.
Exactly. So it's a nice spin on,
Yeah, totally.
on what you would normally expect.
And the progression of that being
Oh my
where
fucking God.
you're fighting this creator who keeps getting, you know, bigger and bigger and bigger.
Because he's the creator. I mean, he
He can do whatever he
unlimited
wants.
power.
And so basically he beats the shit out of Asura
Right.
and says
Basically, almost kills him.
you know what, you failed. I guess I was wrong.
I'm gonna have to look
So
for somebody else.
We're just gonna. I'm gonna
Start
basically
over.
destroy this.
Oh, that's
world.
right. Yeah, he's gonna start over with the universe.
I'm
yeah.
gonna just start. I'm gonna start over
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
So they basically send him back to the world.
Right.
Yasha,
Well, Yasha-
and-
Yasha saves him, yeah.
and Asura, and that's when Yasha realizes that they need to stop this guy,
Right.
or that Asura is dead again.
Yeah.
essentially.
Basically.
So he rips out, what was that, the mantra heart thing that he ripped out.
The mantra drives. So
Okay.
basically, they had a big storage battery for all the mantra for the other gods that were killed, and so this is where it's like, oh yeah, they totally are machine men, because,
Right.
because it's always kind of
turns into Iron Man
It's
all of a
always
sudden.
yeah,
He's
it's
got
kind
the
of
matrix of power in his chest.
it's kind of ambiguous before then. I mean, they look kind of machinery, and everybody's got like cybernetic parts and stuff. But
Yeah.
And there's times where Asura lost his arms and he's got
Right.
like sparks and stuff coming
exactly.
out.
Yeah.
But you're
Coils.
not sure what the extent of that is,
Right.
and then Yasha takes him to like this place and like punches his chest and it pops open, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's all machine in there.
Yeah.
And can I just say how much I love the fact that Yasha's solution to adding the mantra to Asura is basically take the little drive out and then smash it against Asura's drive as hard as he possibly can until the two fit together.
Right. By hitting B as often
Yes,
as hard as you can.
exactly. And so then basically Asura has, and that includes Yasha's own power. Like, he pulls out his own drive,
Yep.
Sacrifices himself so that Asura has basically all the power. And then Asura grows huge and goes
Yes.
and takes it to space.
Which kills Yasha as well.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
because he goads.
So that's why I say it
he does all that
sacrifices
stuff.
himself, yeah.
Kickstart Azura, and then basically goads him into a fight to get him all amped up.
Oh,
and
yeah,
to get him
yeah.
all powered up.
Right.
And that's
I forgot
where,
about
like,
that
at the
part.
last second, like, they're going in to do like this final punch thing, and they show that like really awesome shot of Yasha like doing a little smirk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Azura sees it, and so he stops and doesn't punch him.
Yeah.
And that's when he realizes that Yasha
already
basically
dead.
sacrificed
Yeah.
himself, and then they do a little bro fist. They totally do, and you have to hit the button, don't you?
Yeah, I think
To
you
like
do.
bump
Yeah.
fists.
I saw that coming. I'm like, I bet I'm going to have to hit a button here. This is going to be awesome.
So they totally bro fist bump,
Yes.
and then he disappears and dies, you know, absorbs or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
And-
and then that's when Azura
Awesome.
gets even more pissed off.
And flies off into space, giant size, bigger than the Earth,
Yes.
has planets and suns thrown at him as he's hurtling towards Chakra.
Again, who's now bigger again.
Yes.
Who's also, because he's been in the sky, like kind of like the sun.
Yeah.
Like,
Essentially.
and
Yeah,
Yasha's
good
like, oh, he's going to destroy us at any given time.
Yeah.
He just said that he's going to blow up the universe, and it's just he hasn't decided when yet. He's just waiting. Which I'm sure was just more manipulation to get
Probably.
Azura to go again.
Yeah.
Because that's how he's done the whole thing.
And then they go into this kind of mindscape battle in some ways.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
this last chapter.
I do too.
The last chapter blew everything else away.
It was a little tough for me, though.
Yeah?
I had a couple. I found the DLC to be overall just harder than anything else in the game. And I think it was just maybe the more one-on-one battles, because I had problems with those one-on-one
yeah.
battles.
You
once
know,
in a
you know
while.
why that probably didn't affect me? Because I
You're so
had
good?
no, because I had played through the game multiple times and
Yeah.
unlocked all those power meters.
Oh, okay.
So I had a power meter that basically kept Asura supercharged the entire
Nice.
time. So
Oh.
he was invincible most
And
of the
see,
time.
I didn't change. I didn't ever change up any of my meters. I just kept it with the default one.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, that last battle was a little bit
Okay,
much for
I can
me.
see that.
And I think it was actually I died once, and then I think I got him the second time, or maybe I died a couple times because it came down to some of those moves you had to do the quick time thing,
Right.
Yeah.
and if you didn't get it, there was no way to get your thing built up,
Right.
Yep.
And so there was a series of them, and I would kind of screw up some of the buttons and got
Right.
super mad, but I got through it.
Yes.
And that whole scene was amazing. Like, it was so disorienting.
Yes.
And you're in basically this white world that kind of ripples a little bit.
Right.
And is mirrored on the floor. So it was kind of confusing what was going on.
It was
but that added to
Apple
it.
commercial world.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And he did another morph in
That's
that
where
point.
iTunes comes from.
Because you beat him up.
Hard
You
iTunes.
beat up Chakra.
Yeah.
And then he morphs into that other. I can't remember what it was. The creator thing where he
Yeah.
was like a skeleton,
Yeah,
kind of like
really creepy.
machine. Yeah, he was creepier
Yeah.
than fuck, but he was awesome looking.
Yeah.
and then you just beat the piss out of him.
Right.
And
Well, you beat the piss out of each other.
it was an awesome. That's the other thing. As we went through the game, I liked the progression of changing up how the buttons were on the screen.
Yeah,
I
was debating if we talk about this here or not, but really the incorporation of gameplay with the story is important. So
Yeah, they started changing it up and giving you different ways that they showed you the button
Right.
inputs as you progress through the game. And this one probably was the best at the end, where they start showing you
chakras.
Yeah.
control.
And I was like, am I supposed to press that?
because they're in a
Yeah.
different language,
Right.
so I didn't
Yes.
know what was, or they're like symbols.
Yeah.
and so, but they're on the screen the same way that you would
Yeah.
as for
and,
Azura.
and you don't affect it at all. It's
No.
it's just kind of
They're showing you what he's doing,
Right.
And it was awesome to kind of see them doing the same kind of thing and it
Right.
coming back at you. And when you started beating the piss out of him, and they would start failing,
Yes.
like where he'd have to hit the button and he would hit it a bunch,
yeah.
and it would start
Yeah.
stuttering out, and then he would fail it,
Yeah.
and then he couldn't get up,
Yeah.
and you just followed up with Azura doing your button pushes, and that stuff was awesome.
It started to blur the lines from being a spectator for the story and being involved in the story.
Yeah.
Which is really
really smart.
Which is really what the quick time events ended up doing throughout the game, because, you know, they weren't just random QuickTime events. They were always tied to something important in the story
Yeah.
to kind of keep you involved.
Right. I love that last battle.
For a game it felt like it was going to be mostly QuickTime. I think that's why this game has kind of blown me away as much as it did. Is that I was expecting so little from it, and then got so more than I even expected.
Well, man, the story and the character arcs went through such progression that I didn't expect. Like, it should be an empty void of a game, like of just doing this and beating people up.
Yeah.
But there is a total story that's embedded in this that is you can watch progression of characters, and I thought that was awesome.
And then you get all the, I mean, the whole episodic feel of it really is what draws me and keeps me playing that game. And I love the idea behind it. Like, just the whole fact of making stuff episodic and downloading it and just playing it by, episodes. I think that's fantastic. It brings, brings life to the game. But I was chopping at the bit every time the new one was posted.
Yeah.
Or, like, you tell me about it. I'm like, I need to buy it because I want to play this.
And these weren't vital to the story so much, but they did have a couple half episodes, basically 11.5 and 15.5 or something like that, which were more of character pieces. They did fill in a little bit of story in between, but really I saw them more as character pieces for Yasha and Asura, respectively.
Yeah.
The Yasha one, that was kind of okay. It was mostly Yasha confronting Deus and kind of really getting down to the deal of, what are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's one of the times that they were talking about, like, power without purpose or whatnot,
Yeah.
That one was pretty good, but I always found Yasha a little harder to control anyway. And this, well, I guess this wasn't so much the combat. That was all QuickTime. The half episodes were all QuickTime.
Yeah, because they were the animated style, like cartoon, basically.
Correct. Yeah, they went one step further for the show idea. But 15.5, I think, is what it was, or maybe it's the other way around. But the Asura one, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one where it's really he just is
Fighting all
not
the Goma.
going to give up.
What didn't he just finish fighting the dude up on the moon? And he had no arms.
Yeah, because that's when he has no arms.
Yes,
He's got
that's
his sword in
correct.
his
He picks
mouth.
up the sword
Yes,
off the
that's correct.
he's like,
Yeah.
I'll take this. And
Right.
then he runs, and then it's like, to be continued.
Right.
But
And
then
it's
you
got
get
that
to-
giant turtle snake thing coming.
Yeah, but then you get to play the Lost episode.
Yeah.
And that episode was brutal, like flat out brutal for me. He gets just fucking beat up, and there's like 2 or 3 different times I'm just like, I know he's gonna make it,
Right.
Because
the story goes on
Yeah,
afterwards.
but I'm sitting there going, what?
Yeah.
He's getting hammered on,
Right. And so
dragged around.
And he's got no arms.
I know.
And I also really like how the art style, because they went with full animation for this, and the art style changes around, and like as things are getting more savage, it's like the brushwork for the ink is getting more
a little bit thicker, and,
thicker,
jaggeder,
exactly.
Yep.
And so it just really reflected really well what was going on. It was such an exciting thing to watch. I sometimes almost forgot to press buttons because I was really engrossed in watching what was going on. But I guess story wise, the Lost episodes.
Lost episodes,
The Street Fighter episodes.
I had a lot.
Oh, yeah, I didn't do those.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I haven't done.
A lot of fun with those. The story wise,
It's not much story.
No.
Okay, so let me point this out. I didn't talk about it on the regular show, but so you do Act 4,
Yes.
right? And then there's a little epilogue at the end where it kind of shows you into the future and how the Earth has changed because of
Yeah,
what
we didn't talk about that.
Asura has done. And so you basically see what is essentially modern society and people running around in the city, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you see these cameos by these Capcom Street Fighter characters running
yeah.
around in there. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is where they're going to tie this in, because I knew that was the next DLC coming out. But then you do the Lost episodes, absolutely nothing to do with that.
No, not at all.
I think those are just Easter eggs at the end of the
I think
DLC,
so. I think
actually.
so. But it was just because of the fact that I knew there was stuff coming. But they didn't even try to tie it in somewhat story-wise. Because really, those Lost episodes are divorced almost completely from the rest of the game's story.
Like,
Yeah.
do they take place before the game?
They actually do. It's a younger Asura.
Yeah.
And so that's why they fight, just because he's, brash and... all of a sudden, Ryu shows up out of nowhere, and he's like, "Let's fight!"
Yeah. Well, Ryu's
Okay.
that you mentioned that on the show when you talked about it, but I thought that was fantastic because Ryu's like, well, I get teleported a lot of different places, so let's fight.
I guess we're supposed to fight.
Yeah, let's fight.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
And Asura's like, "I'm down with that."
But I really liked, especially that was a good fight. As you were saying on the show, and I'll say now, is I really was, I knew it was coming, but I was duped into playing like Street Fighter all of a sudden. I was hitting up to jump.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
And I was just like,
That's so fucked up.
And it messes with your mind, like right off it like plays with it. And I like that aspect to it. And like
until you try to do the challenges.
yeah, well,
And then you're really unfairly matched.
yes,
You can't block. You've only got like 2 moves.
Yes, the challenges are a little bit of pain in the ass for me.
Can't break combos.
I got a little annoyed.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
it was nice when then you're fighting Akuma on the moon,
Right.
and it was nice because they showed the sword from the. That's when I knew where it took place in time,
Yeah, that's when I got confused when it took place in time.
because I thought what's his name sword was up there.
Yeah, but there's also that big cut in the moon.
Oh, that was
like from their battle.
It was there. Well, never mind that.
They just reused the levels.
yeah,
Basically
they,
what
yeah, they
did.
did. Darn it.
The lost episodes feel like that feels more like Capcom's involved with us. They want to do something.
It
to
seems like a
support
fan
this.
service.
Right? So we're gonna put something together really quickly. It was not nearly as
That's true.
composed as the half episodes or the
Oh,
final,
no, yeah.
or the final act.
A lot of fun though, but yeah.
Do you know how awesome the next Street Fighter is going to be when Asura's a character that you can play in it?
That would be. I might.
And he's just mad all the time? That's going to happen, right?
I hope so.
popping
There's
his
no way it
arms,
won't
I
be.
hope so.
just getting
So
20 arms going.
We mentioned that this is largely based on mythology and religion,
Mm-hmm.
but then given a super sci-fi bent, and just a lot of the design elements for the game
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
were pretty spectacular, because like what's going on Earth is almost primitive
yeah,
in a
yeah.
lot of respects. But then you have these deities flying around in like these super spaceships with faces on them, and
Right.
you know, they get super powered up, and you know, that's when Asura grows his extra arms, and he can grow extra arms later on, and
Yes.
you know, just that first battle with one of the deities, can't remember his name. He's the violence one,
Yeah, I can't remember either.
but you know, and
Oh, the big dude.
the big dude that you punch off a cliff, and then all of a sudden he
Yeah.
becomes like bigger than the earth, and
Yeah.
he tries to crush you with his finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the scale, the way that they keep changing the scale and making things feel massive and dangerous in lots of different ways. You would think, starting with a dude who's bigger than the earth trying to smash you with a finger, there's not much more
Yeah,
you can do from that point.
That would be the.
And yet,
That's from the demo.
that is from
Yeah,
the demo
that's
as well.
from the demo,
And
yep.
yet, you know, each further character really felt like a bit of a threat. The sloth guy, maybe not so much, but he was more of an annoyance. But he had his whole fleet of ships.
Yes.
Because he didn't really do fighting. He used his technology to fight with.
Yeah, that was the Karlov guy. Is that the guy you squeeze in the ship?
Yes.
I love that part.
Yeah, you crush him in that
You
coffin,
like catch
essentially.
him. Yeah, you catch him in like a ship, and you're like squeezing it,
Yeah.
and you keep hitting the B button,
Yeah.
and he's like crying for his life.
Right.
And then you just basically crush him in the ship. I love that.
And I
part.
like how the crush, you know, happens from way far off. So you just see like this pop like in the distance.
It was awesome.
It was pretty cool.
You know what else I loved was the demon Asura. When he got that black
That's right.
shell.
We didn't talk about that. Yeah,
Oh,
when his wrath
yeah.
takes over.
when he
Yeah.
basically went fucking nuts and couldn't even talk anymore,
Right.
and it was just nonstop
Just like,
screaming. I love that
Yeah, it was
because
a sweet design.
that guy was awesome.
and that's
Yeah.
when you switch over to Yasha.
yeah,
primarily.
because he's nuts.
Yeah.
because he just goes crazy.
But yeah, that's
and I
pretty
loved that like whole aspect of him. I love that bit.
Yeah, and that's kind of that comes into play again later, because like his daughter is worried about him because, you know, he's sacrificing himself. Basically,
Right.
his wrath is consuming him. Why he turns all black and hard on the outside is because his fire is burning so hot that he's
Yeah.
basically
He scorched himself.
Scorched himself. Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that part too with Mithra at the end
Mm-hmm.
and Chakra, where he's like telling him like, okay, you've passed my test finally. And this was at the very end before he went to the final
Right.
battle.
Yeah.
And he's like, you passed my test. You're ready to take over this world.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not a bad guy. I created all this.
Right.
It needs a watcher. It needs
Right.
someone to rule
I'm
over it.
entrusting you to protect
and so
this.
you've proven yourself and you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that 1 second where you think, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to push anything, because the only option is to push B to extend an arm.
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
to
Oh,
extend
yeah,
your
yeah,
hand
yeah,
to like
yeah.
shake. And I'm like, I don't want to like accept
Exact-
this deal. Like, so I'm just going to sit here. Maybe I'll have an option to not. And
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't do anything. So I'm like, all right, I'll push B and extend an arm. And he punches him in the fucking face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I didn't even have to like,
yeah.
so it's not like
You doubted Asura.
I did. I was like, I don't want to shake his hand. Nope. It was like instantaneous, where he just like punches him in the jaw.
Yeah.
And that's what kicks off that whole last.
And I like there are like
Evolution.
4 generals where they're basically expounding to you
Yes.
like why
Oh,
Asura's
yeah.
wrong, and you have like this little option up in the top B to shut
him
up.
up, yeah.
You just jump in and punch them.
And there's an achievement for all of them.
Yeah,
I know.
there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I love that part where it totally suckered me. I was like, I don't want to be a pussy and like give in.
Well, and
I'm Asura. I'm going to punch him in the
does
face.
it does a lot of that, sort of switching
Yeah.
things up. You think you know what's going to happen. Like there's isn't there like one punch that's coming in and like it's doing the super slow going to the Y, and then all of a sudden it stops before it like gets there.
Yeah.
And so you actually don't press the button, but you're all tense from like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit this.
Yeah, there was that one, and I can't remember what one it was.
That might have been the one that you were talking about where he almost punches Yasha, but then stops.
That might be it.
I think that might be it. But
Because that's when he realizes that he
Right,
set
right.
him up, or basically he wanted
been
him to do
pushing
this.
him, yeah.
yeah. So he stops,
Yeah.
and then brofists him.
But then, like, it's because you get used to basically, the buttons appearing on the screen in their regular positions.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden you'll get like this one where like there's this mess of B buttons, and you're like, "What the fuck?" And you're
Yeah.
just like smashing the B buttons, and they're all popping off there
Yeah.
as fast as you can.
Or a bunch of left stick moves.
yes, well, and then the Street Fighter ones, you
Yeah.
end up getting quick time things that are combo moves.
Yeah.
you like have to
Nice.
do like up down
Successions?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to hit them all real quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty clever spin
It
on
was
it.
really
as well.
smart. Yeah.
And notice we haven't really talked about the main combat in the game.
No.
Because you can make an argument in terms of combat being substance.
It's pretty much button mashing.
There's a
Yeah.
little more style over substance.
Yes, totally. There's a lot to be desired there.
There is.
But it's you're just basically beating up things until you build up your burst meter, and then hitting a right trigger and triggering the next
correct.
scene.
Yes.
That you then do a quick time event.
Right.
That really isn't. You can't fail for the most part. It's really just for score based.
Yeah.
So I mean,
There were a couple where if you
missed it.
then it screwed things up.
Okay.
But those are usually crucial ones. But
Okay.
yeah, the most part, it would be like you get cut off in a line. You're like, oh, he was talking. I guess I fucked up.
And the ending too that we talked about briefly, where you said it was because there are little like non-animated and just art-wise vignettes in between each episode, which I loved as well because they add sometimes some
like little
pre-story,
epilogues, yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
some after story, sometimes some middle story,
Right.
just kind of telling you what other people were doing or giving you some little extra bits of information. There's one that's at the end that's like 10 scenes that goes through modern day, like we talked about, because basically the game ends with you beating up the creator guy.
Right.
And by the way, I love that last punch where you punch him in the face and then hit the button, and it's like pretty much a shotgun shot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you blow his face up.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was awesome. And then they kind of wrap up where he, at that point, had sacrificed himself. But at the end, they show you these little vignettes that are showing all of the deities in modern day world.
Right.
And there's like
Sort
a
of
statue.
reincarnated.
There's like a Statue of Liberty scene, but it's Asura, who's the Statue of
Yeah.
Liberty, basically standing there. And so they kind of give you the idea that these guys are gods still,
Right.
Or at least they've been passed down through history,
Well, I mean, Asura came back from the death.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
the death.
But it shows you that the cycle is obviously
Yes.
continuing because they've been reincarnated and they're still in existence. Although they don't know who they are.
Right, right.
So, and then it ends with this meteor attacking the world, and
I
Azura's.
forgot about that.
And Azura's basically, that's why I said it's kind of the end.
Yeah.
Because Asura like immediately goes into like battle mode. Like obviously it has instincts to
Yeah.
kick in that he's got to stop this meteor.
Right.
And then it's the whole to be continued thing at the end.
Yeah.
Which if they do a new one that's in modern day and it's kind of like them awakening from their whole thing.
I don't know if they have any more DLC
I don't
planned.
know.
Maybe a sequel.
Yeah, that's what I
Maybe,
want, a
But,
sequel.
Well, that's what I think. That's why I thought the Street Fighter thing was going to tie in
Yeah.
there because it was that I forgot there was that to be continued at
Yeah.
the end of the ending.
Yeah. And so I want to see them reawaken. And then the creator guy can be, this was all your test again.
Yeah.
Because he could essentially keep doing that,
What a
right?
dick. Yes.
Totally. I didn't notice. I should have looked in those pictures because it'd be super awesome if they had like Spider somewhere in those pictures.
They do.
Do they?
Yeah. The
Like-
little golden spider. Oh, I'm sorry. Which pictures? Oh, at the end.
At the very end, like when they're showing all those
I thought
shots.
you were talking about the unlocked pictures.
No,
that
I'm
you
sorry.
have. I'm sorry.
like at those little vignettes at the end, if they had like the
it's
spider in those
possible. I don't know.
artworks,
I
that'd be
didn't- I
awesome.
didn't look.
Show you he's like still.
Yeah.
pulling
I was
everybody's-
dubious about that spider from the beginning.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Spiders are trickster gods in general.
And
Well, I
also
just
that
didn't
voice.
Well, there was that, and I didn't understand why he was hanging out in this underworld, just chilling and talking to this guy, and why Azura was the only one crawling up and on all these spires, and I was just like,
And he was motivating. him.
yeah. But I liked. It was cool. He was a cool spider too.
And then he'd have that one scene with him too, where he was like talking to somebody, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, never mind me." Yeah, it was like the total Wizard of Oz thing. Yeah. Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right.
So I don't know. I loved it. It was a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be on its surface. And everybody needs to play this game. It's a blast.
I love it for the same reason that I really loved Enslaved. You know, both games have kind of mediocre combat system. I would argue that Asura's Wrath combat system is actually a little worse than Enslaved. It's not terrible, but it's just, you know, really mediocre.
Run of the mill.
But they both endeavor to really tell a story and to present it in an engaging way. And I think both of them succeed, and they have strong character arcs going through, and, you know, they tie a lot of the action into the story, and just that's really engaging for me.
Yes, and that second half, like I said, that second act of Asura, the second half, maybe the last third or whatever it is balls to the walls crazy. And
There's
it
a
just
lot of crazy,
it
but
amps up so
it does.
much, and I loved it. Like, I just was not expecting it.
Punching through spaceships and you know, giant space bodies trying to crush you between his hands.
And he keeps just getting madder and madder, and that's the thing.
How about when Yasha socks the space body in the jaw to stop the laser from shooting? And it totally looks like it's just getting punched in the jaw. Oh.
I love all those slow motion punches with everybody's like teeth almost falling out and their lips going crazy. It's like all those boxing games,
right?
When they would show those slow motion punches. That's what it looks like.
It was eye candy for me. Yeah. And then when I played it, it was like, oh, I like this. The design work alone is what won me over at first, and then when you saw the animation, especially on the demo. That painted look, almost that painted type style to it, with the cell shading as well, and then the mixing up here and there.
I like how the deities all have like this texture. They're almost like wooden, in some respect.
Yeah, there's that definitely old style like wood look to them, which I liked.
And it's just they had and all the character design from everywhere across the board. I thought was fantastic. It was the whole package.
I hope we see more.
Yeah, me too. And it kept hitting you over the head.
At least more from this company. What was it? CyberConnect 2.
Yes.
CyberConnect 2 was in charge of this one.
I would like to see more.
They did a really good job.
I'd like to see a sequel.
Yeah.
So I was telling Sean, I could play. This is the kind of game where I could play like every 2 months. I could play one of these.
Yep. Yeah.
Because it literally is an awesome experience and in a compact situation.
Yes.
Or time frame.
Correct.
I mean, a lot of the fighting was all the same, but it's just that story was just just enthralling. And then just craziness. I love it.
Are we good?
Yes.
Anything else?
Definitely one of my top games of the year so far.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to beat.
It's getting an award from me, that's for sure. I know that.
All right. Well, we would love to hear your comments if you've played Asura's Wrath. If you haven't, you should do that, and then let us know what you think.
Yes.
You can email us at comments@signedinpodcast.com. And as a reminder, you can go to signedinpodcast.com for links to all of our other stuff, all the other shows that we do, our Facebook, our Twitter, everything else. So get in touch with us one of those places. We'd love to hear from you. Is that it, gentlemen?
I think that's it.
No!
We'll be back.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Suck it, haters.
This will do. It's just you and me. Time to raise some hell! Now that I think of it, the last time we fought like this, you were still my...